Hello and welcome back to Coven. This is a podcast where we commune with our dream coven, bringing to light the lost stories of enigmatic people throughout history whose fascinating lives echo the complex archetype of the witch. I'm Jenna.
I'm Coco.
And we are your hosts. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back one more time.
One more time and then...
One more time for season 3 in the studio here at Hyde Street, I guess. We still have, I don't know.
A couple of interviews.
Yeah, we still have some interviews to do. I don't know where this one specifically is going to fall in our season 3 series, but this is our final recording for this season in Hyde.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful again. I know, it feels like such a home at this point.
Yeah.
Between recording all of Coven here and my
music
band's, our band's album here. It just feels like a home away from home at this point.
Yeah.
Do you have a magic moment?
Okay, so I don't really have a lot of friends with like cancer placements, and for some reason this cancer season I just keep meeting all of these different people with cancer placements that I don't know, I'm kind of seeing them in a different light for some. I had a friend a while back who was like Cancer rising, Cancer moon, Cancer sun, and I pissed her off and she never spoke to me again. And so I was like, oh, cancers. But I've been meeting a lot of cancers lately. And this cancer season, actually, like right after we went into it, I'm hearing I'm a cancer everywhere around me, it seems like. And I love cancer.
Aw, getting a new angle, a new perspective of cancer archetype. Oh,
yeah.
I love cancers. I feel like I've met so many wonderful cancers throughout my life. And I feel like it makes sense that if a cancer feels you've wronged them, they are like, never again.
Yeah.
Very much like, I don't fuck with that
Scorpios
person.
get that
It's true.
reputation, but Cancer is way worse.
It's true. Yeah, it's kind of a water sign.
Yeah. But yeah, and I also I also had a feeling about cancers because my biological father is a Cancer and I haven't spoken to him in like 20 years. So that's probably like in my unconscious brain.
Yeah. Well,
But...
Cancer men.
Oh, really?
I mean, whatever, I guess. There's unhealthy potential with every sign. Can't generalize anything, whatever.
Sagittarius men are pretty bad.
Oh, yes.
Though.
That's what I always say. I always say my least favorite sign is a Sagittarius man.
I was married to
terrifying
one
thing.
for 10 years and he was awful.
You know, up close and personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But femmes and women of all of the signs and queers and all of the non-binaries and all of the...
They're all amazing.
They're all amazing. And you know what? There are some wonderful Sagittarius cisgendered men in the world. I'm sure. Somewhere. I believe in you. Anyway, shall we?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So this is the part of the show where I present a birth chart to Coco for a blind reading. Coco doesn't know who I've researched for this episode. I will be telling the story of someone, and yes, she's just going to look at their chart without knowing anything about them and tell me what she sees.
Okay, I'm ready. Another more 12th house placement.
Yes.
Okay, so we have Mars and Aquarius in the first house. That's interesting.
This is a correct birthday, a likely correct birth time. There's not a specific time listed, but this is a birth time agreed upon by other astrologers.
Oh, so. Okay. Let's see. We have Saturn, Jupiter, not a tight conjunction, but they're pretty close to each other, and a Uranus Pluto another grand, well, it's a grand trine with the North Node in Scorpio. Oh, and then there's Mercury there in Scorpio as well, making a square to Uranus. And okay, transformation through service to others. Um, let's see here. Oh, and then Sun Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in Sagittarius.
Born on a new moon.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, and then Venus is making a trine to Jupiter and Saturn. Um, let's see here.
I feel like
S-
our charts this time are kind of tricky.
Yeah,
The people that we
this one
chose.
I don't even know like where to begin.
Mm-hmm.
So, um chaos and disruption when it comes to values or what is valued when it comes to like money, when it comes to things that you can hold in your hand, maybe um, uh, either driven or an anger issue or both.
Hmm.
Fiery, um, in, that's a part of this person's personality. There's something like driving or heat that is a part of their identity, and they are probably well, and then that Saturn Jupiter conjunction in the eighth house too. That's a hard one because Saturn and Jupiter conjunct. Like, what is that?
Hmm. I mean, think of the archetype of Saturn is boundaries and limitations and restriction and age and time and death and maturity. Jupiter is a planet of growth and expansion and magnification. So I guess I'm like I'm like giving my own reading of this chart,
Well,
but like
I mean, yeah, so like structure around expansion
yeah.
or expanded structure
Uh-huh.
when it comes to what might have been left behind through a partnership or digging things up that are in the underworld,
Mhm.
but with precision
Mhm.
and being a
Yeah.
perfectionist.
Yeah.
And this also being a part of their identity, or there's some tension there because the new moon and sun is also making a square to Saturn and Jupiter. So there
Yeah.
must have been some like tension there. Also creativity and or a creative imagination about things that aren't there
Mhm.
because of two things: Venus in the 12th house, but then also Neptune making a trine to the sun and moon right
Mhm.
there in the seventh house in Leo.
Mhm.
So the sun in the 11th house is ruling Neptune in the seventh house. So there's like a relationship there. And Mercury in Scorpio in the 10th house. So more digging things up, and then also the North Node is in Scorpio, more going into the underworld and digging things up
Mhm.
and trying to figure out things that are not seen. And then also because Venus is in the 12th house, and the 12th house is about what's not seen as
Mhm.
well. And so there's some creativity around there, but again, structure because it's in Capricorn,
Mhm.
and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And also the Chiron Pluto square from the third house to the sixth house, trauma in their local environment or with siblings,
Mm.
and but transformation from it, and
Mhm.
then using that to try to help others in a way. Uh,
I didn't even realize that she also has Lilith in Capricorn. So I think almost every person that we covered, if not every person that we covered, had a Lilith in either Cancer or Capricorn
yeah.
this season.
Okay. So I'm thinking that this person is probably has a good imagination about things that don't exist or knows about things that don't exist. Some maybe also something that has to do with death and dying because 12th house and 8th house. And then Mercury in the 10th house. So speaking or communicating or maybe writing or texting or essaying
Mm-hmm.
or emailing about things that are underground but being in front of people
Mm-hmm.
or being in the public eye, being in the public eye somehow some way. Interesting chart.
Yeah.
Aquarius rising, Mars in Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius moon, so I don't know about Aquarius rising, but like sometimes we can be cold and aloof and like to be alone. I think I
Mm-hmm.
said it before. We love humanity, but just are not. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we feel like we're aliens on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, that's all I got
Yeah, I think
for now.
that was really good, per usual. Yeah, that was very accurate, and I'm excited to dive into it more. To dive into even more details. This is a really I mean, everybody is, but this is a very multidimensional, layered, complex person. So today, I'm welcoming the linguistic alchemist, translator of the invisible, stream of consciousness poet, Clarice Lispector, into our coven. Do you
Oh,
know who she is?
no. I
Amazing.
haven't known anyone that you.
I
I think.
haven't known
Well,
any.
one. Yeah, you. My
I knew
last one. Yeah.
Octavia Butler, but I didn't really know her story, and I'd never
Mm,
really read much of her work. So I knew
yeah.
her name, but that was it.
Yeah.
Have you known any of the people that I?
Mm-mm. Well, Maria Savina,
Yeah,
I
you'd
knew
heard.
her name, but I didn't know like her
Yeah,
story.
I love this,
I
and
know.
it's also just validating that like we're picking good people
Mm-hmm.
because the point of this is stories that are not like the super widely known,
Mm-hmm.
super famous stories.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Clarice Lispector.
Clarice Lispector.
Cool.
So she was born December 10th, 1920, in Pordolia, which is now Western Ukraine. I had to just pick a random place in Ukraine because it
Been,
doesn't exist anymore.
yeah.
Um, she, before I begin, I just want to explain a little bit about who she is, what she's done, and how she is described by the public. She has written 9 novels, 10 short story collections, 5 children's books, and 6 years of weekly columns. Her work is described as a unique blend of existentialism, phenomenology, and distinct poetic sensibility that challenges traditional philosophical frameworks.
She sounds rad.
She is so rad. I am absolutely in love with her. I'm in love with everybody that I cover
Yeah.
all the time, but like, she's one that I just, she's one that really embodies the way that I approach my art and the way that I approach my work and my own philosophy of art. So it was really fun. And she's a Sag sun and moon, so obviously.
Right.
So she was born December 10th, 1920 in Pordolia, Western Ukraine. Her name at birth is Chaya, Chaya, Chaya,
Mm.
Chaya, which means life or clear. She's born to a Ukrainian Jewish family during the Russian Revolution while her family was immigrating to Brazil, fleeing the Russian Revolution.
What did her name mean again? Life or
It meant
clear?
life or clear.
Oh.
And so when they immigrated to Brazil, she became Clarice. She changed her name to Clarice.
Oh, okay.
She was in this way literally born in between worlds, belonging to no place. She was born while her family was in the process of immigrating from the Ukraine to Brazil. Her family arrives in Brazil as refugees with some relatives that are in Recife.
No idea.
In the state of Pernambuco, which then, as it is now, one of the poorest regions in Brazil. Her father is struggling to provide for the family while her mom becomes paralyzed, and her mom dies when she's 9 years old. So
Trauma.
starts with a lot of, a very traumatic upbringing. Very traumatic, very chaotic, just kind of everything is up in motion, like no sense of grounding, no sense of identity. I'm going to move this real quick. So after her mother passes away, the father moves the family to Rio de Janeiro. Right? I feel like I'm not pronouncing that. That's always how I say it in my head.
Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like Portuguese. I feel like I could conceptualize how to say it in Spanish, but Portuguese is like always
Maybe you
so
could just say
confusing
Rio.
to me.
We'll know
Rio.
what you're talking about.
Anyway, they move to Rio, where her dad attempts to rebuild their lives. At the age of 12, she gains admission to the most prestigious school in the state, despite the family's modest circumstances. She's also immediately recognized as a genius prodigy. She's an exceptional student who stands out among Brazil's elite children. She reads Hermann Hesse Steppenwolf while I think she's like 13 or 14.
I've heard of that before, but I have no idea what it's about.
Hermann Hesse, I haven't read Steppenwolf, but it's about the experience of a man torn between his human and wolf nature.
Oh.
Hermann Hesse, I've read Siddhartha, and that book is incredible and amazing. It's like spiritual philosophical fiction. One of the most incredible books. Highly recommend.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, and Steppenwolf was it was freshly translated to Portuguese, so she like got her hands on it as soon as it was translated, and this was a really transformative experience for her. This is what made her decide to become a writer. At 17, she enters the law school of the University of Brazil, which is one of the most prestigious institutions in the country. Initially, she goes to law school to focus on prison reform, revealing an early instinct to liberate those who are trapped.
Yeah.
So she's trying to change things. She just sees socially how things are so messed up, and she wants to make a difference.
That's interesting. Venus in the 12th house. I feel like that has something to do with it because the hospitals and prison is 12th house, but Venus being creative, and then Capricorn, being work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like she is envisioning something better and being creative by envisioning something better. And she wants it to be her job and prison reform. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. However, she doesn't actually end up becoming a lawyer.
Okay.
She's interested in this. This is what brings her to law school, but she eventually shifts into journalism. And she has her first story published in a popular magazine in 1940 when she's just 19 years old. That same year, her father also dies, and she officially separates from her childhood. I feel like having your mother and your father die before you even turn 20 has to be extremely transformative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In 1943, she marries a diplomat and is granted Brazilian citizenship, and she heavily identifies with being Brazilian. I mean, she grew up there, her whole life is there. She was born Ukrainian, but she heavily identifies with being Brazilian. Mm-hmm. When she marries this diplomat, she enters a world of privilege and international sophistication. Later this same year, she publishes her very first novel. So she's 22 years old, and she publishes her first novel called Near to the Wild Heart. And it's recognized for its lack of narrative because it's mostly a commentary of the main character's inner world, sometimes compared to Camus, The Stranger. If you read Albert Camus' The Stranger, it's like a very, it's an eerily dry inner monologue of a man who commits a murder. And
whoa,
it is not emotional. And that's what's so riveting about it. That's what's so enticing about it, is you're just getting to know this man's inner dialogue, and you wonder, yeah, is he a sociopath? Is this just like an intentional commentary on like taking out the emotional side of things? Anyway, it's compared to that because it's the perspective of a young girl who is determined to live freely in a world ruled by men. And similarly to Camus, she is like, she does some fucked up things. She does some messed up things. And you wonder the whole time if she's like, a sociopath or it's just like a really interesting, like dry commentary of her inner world and her perspective. And this is gained, this gets a ton of attention. It wins recognition as the best debut novel of 1943 from Brazilian critics. There's critic Sergio Millier writes, for the first time, a Brazilian author goes beyond simple approximation for this almost virgin field of our literature. For the first time, an author penetrates the depths of the psychological complexity of the modern soul. All the Scorpio Mercury, all the 12th house, all the Neptune influence. Her writing style is immediately compared to Virginia Woolf and James Joyce, mostly for their like masters of stream of consciousness, but they're not, her writing's not really like theirs at all. Like it is only in the sense of the stream of consciousness attitude. But the way she uses language and the way she writes is completely unique to her. And I'm going to read a little passage from, I'm going to read a lot of passages throughout this, but I want to read a little bit from Near to the Wild Heart. So this is her first novel published at 22.
And it was written originally in
Portuguese.
Okay.
So all of her writing was translated, and she was extremely particular about how her works were translated because her words were extremely intentional. Everything she said was exactly how she meant to say it.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. When you try to translate something, it can lose the author's initial meaning.
Right. And she actually got a lot of work as a translator. Part of her life's work was translating things into English from Portuguese and vice versa. So that's kind of interesting too. So this is from Near to the Wild Heart. She says, when I suddenly see myself in the depths of the mirror, I take fright. I can scarcely believe that I have limits, that I am outlined and defined. I feel myself to be dispersed in the atmosphere, thinking inside other creatures, living inside things beyond myself. When I suddenly see myself in the mirror, I am not startled because I find myself ugly or beautiful. I discover, in fact, that I possess another quality. When I haven't looked at myself for some time, I almost forget that I am human. I tend to forget my past, and I find myself with the same deliverance from purpose and conscience as something that is barely alive. I am also surprised to find that I gaze into the pale mirror with open eyes, and there is so much in me beyond what is known, so much that remains ever silent.
Aquarius rising. Feels like an alien on this planet.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, I just can't imagine like a 22-year-old having, I don't know, like thinking in these ways and writing this in such an articulate way. And it was just something that nobody had ever read, especially not in Brazil at the time. Like she was so revolutionary in her writing style of just exploring the inner landscapes in such a rich way.
Yeah.
Without it being focused on narrative. Like Near to the Wild Heart barely has a plot. It's really just her inner monologue about crazy things.
That's really cool.
So even though she got all of this recognition, she refused to call herself a writer or a professional because she would call herself forever amateur because she followed no rules. She called herself, she said that she did anti-literature because she followed no rules. She avoided anything that would demand her creativity and wanted to let it flow when it was there and remain free of any shackles. So she says, the second I call myself a writer, you expect me to write. And I can't do that.
I see. I see.
And that to me feels so Sagittarius, sun and moon is like, I will not be, you cannot harness my creativity. And I think she just didn't like the idea of being labeled as anything. It confines you in a box.
Mm-hmm.
Her writing was metaphysical and feminine, exploring consciousness through stream of awareness beyond conventional thought. Her whole thing was language beyond reason, language as a means to go beyond language. So she was trying to use words as a medium to like unlock hidden meanings.
How is it that this has just been like a common theme for the past literally 3 episodes?
Yeah.
Everything has been about the unseen and bringing into structure the unseen. And it's so interesting too, because right now we're, dealing with Saturn and Neptune dancing with each other, between Pisces and Aries in our time right now. And that feels very
so
much
true.
like,
creating structure from the invisible.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's a good point.
It's almost like it's like the energies affect us and drive us to certain archetypal energies without us or I mean, we say it's acausal, but it's like a reflection of the energy that we're feeling and what we're drawn to.
Yeah.
And we're drawn to like imagining other worlds.
Exactly. So we're drawn to these types of people. I'm going to adjust my seating position. Developing form and structure with the invisible and with the unknown and with the unseen.
All these 12th house placements and Lilith in Capricorn and Cancer.
Developing a language for the invisible. So she is married to her diplomat husband. He, in all reports, I don't really know much about him. In all reports, he seems to be a nice dude. Very friendly. He's a diplomat. Charming, whatever, what have you. She has to take on the role of a diplomat's wife, though, in this. And, Sagittarius, Aquarius, so many things in her chart are just not a diplomat's wife.
Well, yeah, and Uranus and Pisces squaring Mercury and Scorpio to me is like, I'm gonna say whatever the fuck I want. Yeah,
she's very much not really into the whole like show kind of
propriety,
fakeness of she's just very, very intentional in everything. And I think a lot of being a diplomat is being kind of fake and just like soothing things over for the sake of but she does it. She throws the dinner parties. She makes friends with the other diplomats' wives. She travels with him. In 1944, she accompanied her husband to Italy during World War II as part of his diplomatic service. And she works in an American hospital caring for wounded Brazilian troops. And she witnesses the aftermath of the war. And then in 1946, she moves to Bern, Switzerland with her husband because he's posted at the embassy there. And during this time, she writes to her sister, Tanya. She says, "This Switzerland is a cemetery of sensations." And that reminds me a lot of Anais Nin, what Anais Nin said about New York. Anyway, she doesn't like Switzerland. She feels suffocated by the sterile, orderly Swiss environment that seems to lack the vibrancy that she craves, and by the character of the diplomat's wife. She starts to develop her unique style of exploring interior landscapes rather than any external plot. While she is a diplomat's wife, she gives birth to 2 sons. And then in 1952, they all moved to Washington, D.C. Here,
another like sterile place.
Yeah. Here she's 32. And I can say that
because I used to live there. So
yeah, she's 32 here. She has 2 small kids, and her focus shifts to motherhood and being a diplomat's wife and being a family person. She has so much to focus on that she doesn't really write for most of this decade in the 50s. But she does spend the whole decade slowly working on her novel, The Apple in the Dark, which is also just a brilliant, genius novel.
The name.
The Apple in the Dark.
Is like really cool. Yeah.
It's another like psychological, not super plot driven, very inner monologue, with a character that's very morally ambiguous, and you don't really understand, like, are you supposed to like this person? Are you supposed to not like this person? And yeah, it's super interesting. She also started writing children's books in this time, mostly for her own kids, because her kids would see her writing all the time. And one of her sons, asked to write him a book. And so she did. And then it ended up being a super popular children's book. Wow. I also just think she has so much. She has her North Node, her Mercury in the 10th house. And then she has her sun and her moon and her midheaven in the 11th house. And it seems like no matter what she does, it's well received. Like, it seemed like she's the kind of person where she can put anything out into the world and it's just
great.
Yeah, it's just taken. And I think the 11th house shows to that. It's like the house of fortune and being like well received by communities if it's well placed. And she has her sun and moon in there and the midheaven in there.
Yeah.
And Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter has its joy in the 11th house. So it's like one of those where it's like she can just kind of put things out there. But that being said, she did not want to be in the public eye. She never gave an interview. This is where she differs from Anais Nin. Anais Nin was like, yes, see me. I'm here to be seen. I'm here to be viewed. Yeah, her Venus in the 12th house, totally.
She's like, no thanks.
She doesn't want to be seen. She doesn't want people's eyes on her. She doesn't want the expectations from other people. She just wants to kind of do her thing.
She wants to be fluid.
Yes. In 1956, she falls asleep with a lit cigarette after a long night of writing and wakes up to her room in flames. And in a moment of pure instinct, she tries to put out the fire with her bare hands to save any of her unfinished manuscripts. She suffers severe burns on both of her arms and legs and spends 3 months in hospitals, enduring painful treatments and skin grafts. Doctors even consider amputating her right hand, but ultimately decide to save it. And this will stick with her for the rest of her life. She'll carry chronic pain, and sounds like obviously psychological, emotional damage from that.
That's interesting because of her Pluto in the 6th house. The 6th house, like, I feel is associated with our physical body, and Pluto in Cancer, retrograde in the 6th house.
Interesting.
Transforming through like some sort of bodily harm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is making that square to Chiron and Aries in the 3rd house. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So then in 1959, she finally makes the difficult decision to leave her husband and return to Brazil, back to Rio de Janeiro with her children. So now she goes from the high esteemed diplomat's wife to the single mother, serious artist. As she returns to her homeland, she fully embraces her writing, and she begins the most productive and profound period of her literary career. Her writing becomes focused on true freedom, the present moment, and the void between thoughts. She develops a mission to translate the invisible, the experiences that exist beyond ordinary language, but using words and symbols as almost like poetic codes that unlock knowledge from somewhere deep and somewhere beyond. So she develops a stream of consciousness technique, allowing words to flow without logical reason. She's described as writing from the womb, creating from this primal feminine source. Her writing is trance-like and meditative. It's a trip. It's a crazy experience. She still refuses to call herself a writer or a professional. She insists on the forever amateur. She rejects literary prizes and formal recognition when they threaten her independence, and she creates outside of all established systems, refusing to be contained by genre or tradition. All the while, she is held up as like the most famous writer to ever come out of Brazil.
Wow.
Brazil is like, she is international, or she's nationally recognized as like,
they're proud of her.
yeah, she's the one. There's statues everywhere. Like, everybody knows who Clarice Lispector is in Brazil. But in the States, nobody really knows who she is, partly because she's like, doesn't want that. She doesn't really want that kind of attention on her. Her writing becomes increasingly metaphysical and experimental, and she develops a reputation as a literary outsider who cannot be classified or commodified. Her cosmology, there's one thing that she's said about her writing, or about kind of her philosophy and her cosmology, is progress of any kind, literary, spiritual, personal, is equivalent to paring down, curbing excess, and pursuing the most elegant shape of a form.
More about form.
It's true. She draws extensively from the Upanishads, which is a central Hindu scripture about consciousness and reality. She even includes some Upanishad quotes at the end of some of her books. She incorporates frameworks from both Christian and Jewish mysticism. She becomes fascinated with the number 7. She becomes obsessed with the number 7 and studies Kabbalah. There's a quote. Lispector's biographer Benjamin Moser claims that she wrote that 7 was her secret and Kabbalistic number, and her sister Tanya confirmed that she often had a great deal of Kabbalistic literature. Certainly from a young age, Clarice thought that the number 7 in particular held a strong power over her, and this later became a hidden motif in a lot of her work. And I think that part's interesting because 7 makes me think of Mary Magdalene. 7 demons. There's also the 7 alchemical processes of transformation. 7 is a really powerful, transformative number. It represents to me, it represents just like complete alchemical transformation. It's like a process of work. It's like steps of work. So she eventually writes The Passion According to G.H., which becomes a widely critically acclaimed novel. This is a novel where the protagonist experiences a complete mental breakdown that leads to a spiritual breakthrough. The entire novel is just the snapshot of this mental breakdown that's happening in her inner dialogue with it. And it ends, it doesn't end, but the climactic scene involves this main character, this woman, eating a cockroach. Like originally the mental breakdown started because she opened her drawer and saw a cockroach in it. And she ends up eating the cockroach slowly, symbolizing a union with what most disgusts her. It represents the ultimate integration of the shadow self and the conscious self.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think also those things that feel gross and scary that we don't want to think about or look at, like Scorpio, Mercury.
If you were to ask me what sign would you think of if you were to think of a cockroach, I'd be not saying anything bad about Scorpios, but just they hide, they scatter, they're you pick something up, it's underneath that thing.
Yeah, they do represent Scorpio, Mercury. That's funny to think about it in that way. They're hiding in all the places that we don't look.
Right.
Yeah, and of Apple in the Dark.
They scatter when you turn the light on.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's so funny. Of Apple in the Dark, another one of her novels, her biographer Benjamin Moser has interpreted that as an allegory for the Kabbalistic journey, which is super interesting. Now I want to talk about Agua Viva, and this is the book that I have, and I've had this book, so I've known about Clarice for a while now. Actually, shout out Gabby Abrao Saiswoon, because it's because of her that I bought her first Agua Viva, because she was posting about it. And I just had to read this book. It translates to The Living Water or Stream of Life. And this is, I think, of all of her works, all of her works are studied as masterpieces of poetry, of stream of consciousness. But this is the one that is the most mind-boggling. That's the most kind of confusing, but it's the one that is the most trance-like. It inspires the most mystical experience, it seems, out of all of her books. It's a pure stream of consciousness novel. pure consciousness in the form of flowing liquid prose. Her language becomes alive, moving like water or breath. She abandons all traditional narrative structure in favor of a meditative flow. Her writing becomes a direct transmission of a mystical experience, and the text operates more like poetry or a prayer than a conventional novel at all. It is such a trip to read. There is no plot at all. It's just, the goal is to capture the present. That's the whole point of the stream of consciousness, is to strip everything away that she possibly can and catch up to the present moment, to be there.
Yeah. Uranus and Pisces, just like I was looking at like the, the different water signs and Neptune and everything too, but Neptune in Leo. And so being seen, but with Neptune, it can get foggy and confusing. But then also like doing something radically different with mystical, unconscious things that you're not aware of, and then there's a square to her Mercury and Scorpio. That's interesting.
All feeding into each other. It's true. Readers report while reading Agua Viva altered states of consciousness. There's, I guess, a Brazilian musician who reportedly was so inspired he read the book like 111 times, and people report every time you read it, it's like something new, and it's it really is just this. There's not like an order to read it in. Like you can read it all the way through, and I actually think I do prefer to read it all the way through. I used to think that I just wanted to like open to a page and read it, but after this time around, like reading it from the beginning, I think it randomly does make sense in order, which doesn't make any sense because there isn't a plot, there isn't a narrative, but it was actually a lot easier to follow reading it from the beginning. It's a fascinating, beautiful text, and I'm going to read a little snippet of it because this is the part where she mentions astrology. She says, "Life runs deep in me. The dawns find me pale from having lived the night of deep dreams, even though at times I skim over an apparent shoal which has beneath it a dark blue, almost black depth. That's why I write you, for the sake of the soft breath of the thick algae and the nascent tenderness of love. I'm going to die. There is this tension, like that of a bow ready to release its arrow. I remember the sign of Sagittarius, half man and half animal. The human part, in classical rigidity, holds the bow and arrow."
Wow. She had to have known she was a Sagittarius.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I think she definitely would have, because, I mean, we knew she was interested in all of this like mysticism. But in 1975, she's invited to attend the first World Witchcraft Congress in Bogota, Colombia.
Wow.
And the invitation is addressed as, "Dear friend of the unknown, we are looking to bring together people from all walks of life who are deeply interested in the study of man's inner powers and of the universe's occult forces beyond the reach of the five senses. Whether your field of research is witchcraft or parapsychology, astrology or alchemy, ancient magic or modern sorcery, extrasensory perception, or any of the other countless means through which men and women become aware not only of normally untapped capacities within themselves, but also of a pulsating reality beyond their senses." Yeah, pretty sick.
Saturn and Jupiter in the 8th house.
Yeah.
In Virgo.
Her response to the invitation, well, when somebody was like, "You got invited to this, are you going?" Like, why? I didn't know that you were into witchcraft at all, because she doesn't talk about being a witch or anything. She says, "The Congress talks about the development of occult forces, and everything that is occult attracts me. Besides, it concerns white magic, so no harm can come from that, don't you think? Presently, this story of witchcraft is in the air. It's as if we were suddenly revisiting some missing link from the Middle Ages. Actually, I'm just curious, without taking anything too seriously, without expecting any big revelations. I'm going to talk. They say I was the only Brazilian writer invited about magic and literature. The problem is that they're expecting a lot from me, and I don't think I have much to give.
Interesting.
She's extremely interesting. She's just like very...
She's like, nah.
Well, she's very free. She's very just like curious and open, but she also just... I think she just hated being misunderstood. She hated being like having any expectations placed on her.
Didn't want to conform to the society.
Yeah, so she didn't have any
she's like internally free. Like free inside.
Free inside, and yeah, maybe not so much externally, but she became free through her words, through her writing. There's only one interview that exists of her.
Oh wow.
That's filmed, and it was filmed in January of 1977, and it's so fascinating. It really, I feel like, gives you an idea of her personality. She's so cool. Like, she's so just cool. She's just very like collected. She's very unbothered. She's sitting there. You can tell she's such a genius. Like, she's just trying to give the most authentic answer, but like trying to sidestep all of the bullshit coming from the interviewer. So every time the interviewer is like so, like there, for example, there's a question that he asks over and over again. He's like, so who are some of your inspirations? And she's like, I don't know. I'm not going to name names because I'm going to inevitably leave somebody out and somebody's going to get offended. And then later on, he's like, so who are some of your favorite Brazilian authors? And she's like, stop asking me these questions. But she's very like, but then she'll give really thoughtful answers too. Like she will give an answer to, like he asked, like, is it easier to communicate with children or adults? And she says, children are so honest and free, and I have a very like motherly side to me, so I find it really easy to communicate with kids. Adults lose their spark at some point, and you have to, I'm forgetting what she says exactly, but essentially says you have to like, she says with adults, she's communicating with her shadow when she's communicating to adults, and that gets a lot trickier because adults lose their spark, and when they lose their spark, you start to communicate with your own shadow. And he's like, so when does it happen? When do you lose your spark? And she just smiles and is like, I'm not telling. Like, she doesn't say, I don't know. She just says, it's a secret. Like, she's like, I know, I'm not telling you. And I just love that. Yeah. So she later that year, the Scorpio, later that year in December of 1977, December 9th, she unfortunately passes away one day before her 57th birthday to ovarian cancer. Another cancer death, which is very sad. But she demonstrated that language itself possesses magical properties and created new possibilities for literature. She wrote from the womb, from the shadow, from the void where all creation begins. And her darkness was not only depression, although there was a lot of I think there was a lot of inspiration from a depression state. But it's depth, it's the richness of the unconscious. And she made the invisible visible through the alchemy of words and consciousness. So, visible. Yeah, exactly. So Clarice spent her life dedicated to revealing the essence of God by refusing to be domesticated by literary conventions, by using language to unlock the doors into the dimensions beyond language and reason, by stringing together words like sigils, opening portals to the invisible, and blending shadows with light like mixing colors on a canvas in alchemical creativity. She was also a painter. I didn't mention that, but that was a big part of, I think, her painting and her writing were the same thing.
What did her paintings look like?
Wild. They're very abstract. They're very just, it's the same thing. She didn't want to create an image that existed. She was trying to tap into something beyond. I think it was very stream of consciousness painting as well. She was the translator of the invisible. Her writing was more like channeling, a way of accessing the divine wisdom that lives beyond language but can possibly be approached through language. She proved that the intuitive way of knowing, circular, fluid, paradoxical, is not inferior to the linear logic, but is its own complete system of understanding. She wrote from the womb, from the void, from the place where all creation begins. And this is why I am welcoming Clarice Lispector into our coven.
Welcome. Yeah, once again, taking things that like it's like these people the people that we've been talking about recently are trying to take things that we consciously cannot conceive of, but they're trying to show us in form
Yes.
what we cannot conceive of.
Creating bridges, trying to create form, some sense of sensibility with what is completely senseless.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is really important, I think, when you are in the process of creating new realities. You have to go into that unknown space and find a way to bring it into the known.
Yeah, we have to be able to imagine different ways of being in order for us to be able to change. And yeah, that's like so important. So important. Awesome. Well, I think she's going to be hanging out with what is her name again?
Maya Deren?
No, not well, yeah, Maya Deren, but also the math person.
Oh, Miriam.
Miriam.
And yeah. Yeah, I think for sure they would get along. I feel like she and Anais, they existed in a similar era. Anais was a lot younger than her, but not a lot. But I think Anais was younger than her. I think they explored similar topics and wrote in similar ways, but they have such opposing personalities. I feel like Clarice would not have liked Anais.
It would be interesting to do a like a
synastry chart or a composite or something. Yeah, I mean, I think they probably would have had respect for one another. I think they probably both were feminists who understood like the struggles of being a female author. And they both wrote in this more intuitive, feminine way that was not understood at the time at all. But Clarice was celebrated but invisible. Anais was not celebrated and very visible, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see her hanging out with... I could see Clarice loving Alice Coltrane, because Alice Coltrane was a Hindu Swamini and Clarice was clearly inspired by Hinduism.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sick.
All right. That was great.
Well, I guess that is it for our season 3 stories.
Yeah. Well,
interviews to come still and more seasons to come.
Yeah. Can't wait for season 4.
Hell yeah. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.